Hello and welcome to Coffee Chat with Jody Things. I am so excited for you to be here. Again, I'm running a little late today. Not technical difficulties, just mommy mornings and evenings. So if anybody is having toddlers or babies not sleeping through the night, I completely understand. So grab your coffee or tea and let's chat, okay? Okay, so today we're talking about mommy guilt and ways to alleviate it and just be able to live fuller, because I have some fun facts that I've discovered and found, and it really is about not suppressing these feelings and hiding them, but to really release them. Because like anything, any emotion, anger, fear, guilt, shame, if we put it under the carpet or bottle it up, it comes back to get us later in different shapes and forms, depending on what it is. So I really want to help you. And you might be thinking, if you have been following me for a while, why are you talking about mommy guilt again? In just like such a direct way. It's because there's I'll share with a statistic or a study in a second. But the other reason is a lot of moms, we have mommy guilt. And what I'm going to share with you today is these are the reasons we need to help you get through mommy guilt so you can really live those empowered lives that you want. So I was actually reading a book this week, and it was after I actually came up with the topic for this week. And it says, according to the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, there is an emotional connection to 85% of all illnesses. 85% of the illnesses are linked to in an emotional connection. So somehow it's linked. So if you think about, you're putting these emotions somewhere, and if we don't deal with them, they're causing illnesses in your body. And guilt is just one of them. We have many emotions, but today we're going to talk about guilt. And we're going to talk more in detail of mommy guilt. But before I do, I want to go back to just guilt in general, because we all have it. Every person has guilt. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, and then we're going to go really into mommy guilt into more detail a little bit. And then we'll help you give some tips. So the one thing to know about guilt in general is that it actually kind of helps us a little bit. It might sound weird, but in small things, it kind of helps us. So it actually helps us keep healthy relationships. Because it's like, oh, it's Mother's Day, I need to call my mom. Like those little, and like you might not even think that's guilt, but it's underlining and it's there. Can you imagine? So I do have notes today, guys, because I'm not sleeping well. When I wake up in the morning, I don't remember everything as detailed as I'd like. So I'm just having some notes to follow through today. So I hope you're okay with that. Okay. And the other reason I want to talk about guilt today, mommy guilt in particular, is because guilt itself is heavy, dark, and it's not a fun place to be in. It is really a lonely place. So I really want to talk about it today, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. So if you jump on, if you're watching this, or like now, you can comment, or if you jump on, if you're watching this later, please comment below. So guilt is a common feeling, like I've mentioned. Guilt is something, and again, it helps our relationship. So with that said, this is the reason I'm saying this, is to let you know that feeling guilty is okay. Because here's the thing. You can feel guilty, and then all of a sudden you feel guilty because you're feeling guilty. And it can be a really bad cycle. So just know that where you are at right now, or whenever you feel a mommy guilt moment, whatever it might be, and there's just so many different things we can feel guilty about, It could be forgetting a child's event, PJ day at school, forgetting their hats and mitts when you send them to school without, things like that. You forget to make their lunch the night before, now you're hustling, or you run out of their favorite food, whatever it may be for you. And it's different things, or it's the big ones, like your you go to work and you feel guilty because you're not spending enough time with your kids, or you're a stay-at-home mom and now you're feeling guilty because you don't have the income, one, to spend maybe on the things you'd like for your kids, or that you're not bringing in the income for your family. So whatever it might be that's going on, remember that where you are, it's okay to feel guilty. That I'd like to first, that's the biggest takeaway from this coffee chat today, is I want you to know it's okay to feel guilty. Because if you're not at that place, then you're just gonna have the cycle of, oh, I feel guilty, and then you feel guilty for feeling guilty. And boy, is that's not a fun roller coaster ride to go on, the guilt one. So just know that it's okay to be where you are today. And remember that in small microbursts, it's there to kind of help us. It's like fear before it was really to protect us. And all these emotions are given to us because we do need them at times in our life. But unfortunately, there was a study taken that we feel guilty about 5 hours a week. This could be moderate to mild, but we feel 5 hours a week. Can you imagine what we could do if it's just an hour a week we felt guilty, 4 extra hours a week? And it's not even just those hours. Guilt makes us feel heavy, tired, exhausted. Those are just, it drains us, and we don't feel good in these dark places. So 5 hours a week. That's crazy. So you're not alone. If you feel guilty, you're not alone. And like I said before, it's okay to have them in like microbursts. They do protect us from things, healthy, they keep us, have relationships and things like that. But what happens when we leave it unresolved? I already mentioned it brings up illnesses. And, but what happens is also, it's almost like you have this ticking time bomb. Not even a ticking time bomb. Like you just have, okay, let's say you have your kid that wants something and you don't give them an answer. It's like, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And you're ignoring them. And they're not gonna stop asking until you say, no, let me think about it, or yes. And that's the same thing with guilt. If we don't deal with it, it's like this voice in our head that's constantly telling us things. You're not good enough, you're a failure. And it's this constant annoyingness that just won't go away. So those 5 hours might be there, but I think it's actually more. And with moms, you add mommy guilt, the whole more responsibility, more expectations, little people to look after. And that guilt it goes even bigger. Mommy guilt is real. There's just so many things to feel guilty about as a mom. And I'm going to go a little bit into detail why mommy guilt is even more intense. And not even just intense, but it's why it's more of a thing than even just guilt itself. And it's because we're a woman. And you might be shocked by that, or you're like, oh my goodness. But I'll explain that in a little bit. But I'm just going to go through some other fun things that that are about guilt. When you're constantly thinking that you're a failure, or that you're not good enough, or you think about that thing that made you feel guilty in the first place, you're now not thinking straight. You're all over the place. You're now focused on something that happened in the past that you just can't let go. And you're just feeling down, and you don't see the goodness in yourself. You don't see how amazing you are. You're only looking at your flaws. So it can really take that joy away from you and leave you feeling, it can really take away from your productivity, wow, my tongue tie, and concentration, because you're now not focusing 100% on what you're doing. You're everywhere, and you're in that heavy, dark place. So it's really hard to stay focused there. So it also robs us of our joy. So when you're feeling down and not good enough, or beating yourself up for something you did or didn't do, you start beating up on yourself. And you might stop doing social activities because you don't feel worthy. You're like, I'm not going on, we're not doing the family vacation. You might not want to celebrate your birthday anymore. You stop celebrating the joy in your life. Especially if it's surrounded about you, like you're the center point, because you don't feel worthy enough. It robs you of your joy, your most amazing moments in life. Yes, of course, you'll still take care. Being a mom, you'll still make sure that your kids, have their joyous moments. But if you look, a lot of moms actually stop celebrating themselves. I grew up with a mom that didn't wear a lot of makeup, and I actually thought it's like, oh, like that was a bad thing, putting makeup on. And I had this really struggle between, I was like, oh, putting a makeup on is, lost the word, but I thought it was a bad thing. But here's the thing, and you don't have to wear, so wearing makeup or not wearing makeup, it doesn't matter. What matters is the person that's wearing it. Does putting on makeup make you feel good, happy, joyous? You're like, woohoo, you're celebrating yourself. Or are you putting it on to hide yourself? Like you don't feel worthy enough, so you have to hide your face and change it up. It's all about who that person is. If you don't like wearing makeup and being all natural makes you feel amazing and lights you up, awesome. But if you're not wearing makeup because you think it's not a good thing to do because you're not worthy enough, you don't have time, all those excuses, then it comes from a different place. So no one way is right. It really depends on the person. And that took me a long time to realize that, putting on makeup now and then just makes me feel like it's to celebrate a liveliness. And it's okay to dress up and have fun. It's loving your skin and your body before and after the experience with makeup or anything else you do with your body. So anyways, I kind of got off a little bit, but it's understanding why you do what you do. Because before, I had that whole thing. And if you followed my story, I've definitely went through the whole self-love journey myself, and that's why I'm so big on self-love. So I've sidetracked again. I do that a lot, don't I? Okay. So it robs you of your joy. You start doing things or not stop doing the things that you really love because you don't feel worthy. And that's where it really starts. And then it just can snowball. So you don't feel worthy enough to go on a shopping trip and get some new clothes. Maybe you gained a little bit of weight and you feel guilty that you gained weight. Why should you spend more money on clothes? And then you feel guilty and you don't buy new clothes. And then you start just wearing whatever's around the house, maybe even your husband's clothes. And you just don't feel worthy enough. I'm going to help you with some of these things at the very end, so stay tuned. And then we start punishing. So what this could look like is eating, you feel guilty and then you scarf down your feelings. You feel guilty about something and then you just, eat a thing of ice cream or chips. And then you feel guilty about that. And then maybe you jump into working out. But we beat ourselves up and punish ourselves in so many different ways. Like I said, eating is one of them. It can be working out. Yes, working out too much. Just, you feel like you have to be constantly working out 24/7. And you can really just beat yourself up over this. And it also affects our relationships. When we feel guilty, this could be you actually did something, maybe you hurt somebody's feelings and then you feel guilty about it. Or maybe you just feel guilty around this person. And we'll get into the next step of that in a second. But maybe, so say you did something and you feel really guilty, then you avoid this person. So, or the situation. So it could be even with your children. So something happens and all of a sudden now you have that negative emotion attached to that situation. And maybe you don't want to show yourself at school. Maybe you did something, you forgot something for your kids, a hat, PJ day, whatever it may be. And now you don't want to show your face. And every time you show up at school and drop your child or children off, you feel guilty. And this emotion comes back up again. And it's really just getting to the bottom of it. And again, I'll be sharing little tips at the end of this, but it can really impact our relationships in a negative way as well. And then you have the people in your life that make you feel guilty. They give you the guilt trips. And we definitely have had a lot in our own life of the guilt trips. And being a mom, they're even there more. You should do this, or why don't you do that? Oh, we'd love to see our grandkids more. And now those on their own are good. Like, grandkids want to see their kids, but it's sometimes the way people do it in a guilty way, and to make you feel guilty. And some people know they're doing it on purpose, and others they don't. And I've talked about this actually in one whole coffee chat about being resentful. It turns into resentment. And with resentment, you actually don't want to hang out with this person either because they make you feel bad. And we've talked a whole pile about that. And it's really just setting those boundaries and having conversations with people. And we'll go over more about things, but resentment over people making you feel guilty in your life. And being a mom, it happens often. You can even have it with other parents around you. Like, oh, why is your kid doing that? Or why don't you have, just different things. Why is your kid not wearing their mitts or whatever it may be? And then it turns into it goes resentment and then judgment. And we can be as we judge and other people judge. And it just falls into this really messy situation. So it's being aware that guilt even can really have a damper on our relationships. And when you mix the mommy guilt in, it's even more. So those are the little fun facts of guilt. And I'd really like to go, I know there's somebody watching, if you want to give me a happy face, a smiley thumbs up, something, and good morning to you. I don't know who you are until you say something, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know you jumped in a little later. But I'm going to explain what to do. Making sure that I didn't miss anything. Yeah. So what to do to help alleviate guilt? There is a lot you can do, and we've talked about simplifying your life to eliminate mommy guilt. But the main thing it's to focus on is being mindful. Mindful that it's happening. It's realizing when you feel guilty. And now, before what I mentioned, we do have little micro bursts of guilt a lot. We have guilty thoughts about 5 hours a week. That's pretty insane. but it's grabbing those ones that really is like, wow, you feel guilty, you feel dark, heavy, a failure, not good enough, not worthy enough, and being mindful. And then I would take it a step further and start writing it down. Maybe just keep like a little notebook or just have paper on hand, but really just being aware of when it's happening. That's the biggest one, because a lot of us, we can walk through and have mommy guilt, and we just think about it, have it, maybe eat the ice cream, work out, and then we forget about it. It's being very mindful that it's happening. And then it's why or who made you feel guilty? What did you do? Or if it was a guilt trip, who made you feel guilty? And really getting the who, the what made you feel guilty about it? If somebody did make you feel guilty, or what did you do to make yourself feel guilty? And when did this happen? And it also helps to know when, because a lot of things happen in our life, and maybe you had a really rough night's sleep. Your emotions are already running a little different, maybe a little high, and then you're beating yourself up more because you're tired too. So really just knowing the environment that these emotions are growing is also very important to help really understand where they're coming from, because they're coming from somewhere. That's the big thing. These emotions are coming from somewhere. So write it down, write it all down, and then ask yourself, why do you feel so badly? Why do you feel so badly about, maybe forgetting, let's go with forgetting your kids' mitts. What made you feel so badly? And then let's go with a quick little update. And so there's two actually forms of guilt. It's justified and unjustified. And a lot of us moms have unjustified guilt, where we feel guilty about things that we can't control. And then there's, of course, justified, where we have done something that we could have hurt somebody emotionally, physically. It's justified. Yeah. So that guilt is justified. So we do have a reason for feeling guilty. And even for getting your kids mitts, yes, could be cold, but you can beating yourself up is not going to help. It's figuring out a solution. How do I get these mitts to my kids? I actually am using this example because I actually did forget my kids' mitts. Actually, it wasn't mitts. It was a hat, and it was a transition period. So I actually didn't forget. I just didn't realize that she might need a hat. Luckily, I was just like, oh yeah. I just rolled with it, and luckily, I was very grateful because she's at a school where they supply extra hats and mitts for the moms or the parents that might not be on top of things all the time, because we can't all the time. It's okay to make those little mistakes. But, like forgetting to pick your kid up from school. Yes, that might be, oops, that was a totally you factor. But depends on what it was. Maybe you fell asleep. And it's just making it up to your kid. So justified is taking care of those actions, following through on what happened. But let's talk about the unjustified, and that's where I want you to ask your questions and why. Why does it make you feel so badly? And then the big one, what were you taught about being a good woman, a good mom? So think back. What was your childhood like? Who raised you? Did you have a single father, a single mother, both parents? Did your mom work and your dad worked? Did they both work? Or did your mom stay home and your dad worked? Or for my husband, he had two working parents, but his grandma was in the picture a lot. And it's really, what were you taught about being a good woman? So who was around in your life? Who taught you these things? And then what were they doing? Maybe you had a stay-at-home mom and she cleaned and, I had, for a little while, my really young age, I had my grandma babysitting me. And she came from the era where she cleaned the house. She did everything for the husband. The food was on the table at the end. And if I would have been raised with that the whole time, my whole outlook on what a good family, a good mom, a good woman looked like, it would be different. And I actually had two working parents. So it's like they did the best they could, and I actually saw the babysitters more than my parents. Oh, good morning, Sarah. Hello. And yeah, I'd love to hear. Yeah, good morning. Yeah, so it's really figuring out where in your life you were taught about being a good woman and a good mother, and a lot of the things we feel guilty about as a mom, we've actually learned in our childhood. And when you realize where you've learned these things, we can really shift our perspective on things. So yes, I forgot my daughter's hat. And guys are like, oh yeah, I totally forgot. It was maybe a micro guilt, but I didn't beat myself up over it. So it's taking these moments and really realizing why. Why do you feel guilty about something? For the longest time, I felt like I needed a clean house. The house had to be clean. Well, after kid number two, that wasn't happening, especially since I'm also running a business. Things gotta give. And the other biggest thing about mommy guilt is what I talk about all the time: self-love. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier about when you beat yourself up and things like that. So self-love is when we know who we are and we love who we are. It makes what we do a little easier to forgive, if that makes any sense. So I'm just reading your comment, Sarah. It comes up on the screen. Okay, yeah. So Sarah, just yeah, you only have one coffee at a day or at night, so you get through the night. You know what? I'll be completely honest with you because you say you feel guilty, and you know it's okay. I am still nursing my son. He's 18 months, so he only probably gets a lot. So I nurse him a few times a night usually, and in the morning and before bed, and usually it was naps. And I'm drinking coffee right now, and I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, you have two children as well. And I don't know, the first with Anastasia, my daughter, I didn't have coffee often. But I with Jaden, my son, I drink it more. Um, what we've discovered is it goes through the milk pretty quickly. And as long as it's not infecting your child where they're up all night or like, I think it's okay. So you need to do what needs to get you through the night and the day. And that's okay. It really is. So yeah, but it's those little things, right? As a mom, we feel guilty about having even coffee. And yeah, it's because you know what it is? It's society too. And here's another fun thing of because let's just talk over this whole nursing thing is with my daughter, I didn't drink like anything at the beginning after I was nursing her, or very little. My son comes along and it's like, okay, obviously I timed it around his feedings, but I was a little bit more because it goes through the milk in about 2 hours per drink. So, sometimes you got to do things for you too. Not that I'm encouraging crazy drinking or anything, but sometimes you need a glass of wine here or there. So, but yes, so it's really understanding who you are, and it's amazing once you figure out why you have these thoughts, why you feel guilty about things, and it's sitting down. And if you're a big journaler, it's sitting down and really just going through your childhood. Why do you have these thoughts? Why don't you feel good about this? Like for me and the makeup, I had this huge belief around not wearing makeup because my mom didn't wear makeup. And the fun fact is my mom actually is not in that healthy place of self-love. And that's why this journey of my own self-love, my self-love journey, was such this big life-changing event for me is because I didn't have that growing up. I didn't have that role model. So it's just looking at your role models with love, because they can only do what they knew how to do. They were raised, every generation is taught by the other generation. So it's not their fault either. But if you need to feel good there and look at it as it was their fault for a little bit, just to ease up the guilt in yourself, that's okay. But be gentle on yourself and be gentle on the ones that raised you, and know that they did their best. So before we go, I've actually talked on a little longer than normal. I just want to, and I think, Sarah, you already know about this, or maybe I didn't, but we're doing 12 days of self-love right here in the Self-Love Club for moms. And it starts December 11th. And it's literally a free thing. I'm going to try and get on live for maybe 5 minutes a day, I hope. We'll see how it goes. But there's actually a contest giveaway. I have 3 prizes. I don't know them all offhand at the moment. I know one is actually a free coaching session with me. And I can't remember the others who are at the moment. But yes, 12 days of self-love, because the holidays are a stressful time, or can be, and then we forget about taking care of ourselves. So here we are doing for others around us, and then we forget about ourselves, and that's when we start lashing out at people, not really being aware of our own emotions. And when we really get in tuned and in touch with ourselves, the holidays can be a really magical time. So whatever kind of holiday you celebrate over these next few weeks into the month, I really want to just help us moms and all work together to really just bring magic into this time of year, and support each other. And it's a magical time of year. And if we don't take care of ourselves, we can really lose that magic. So I'm really excited about doing the 12 days. And it will just be like it will only take about 5 to 10 minutes a day to do, just to get in touch and not forget about who you are and why you're doing what you're doing, which is being a mom and whatever else you do. Because, our to-do lists go crazy over the holidays, this and this. So, so we're going to do 12 days of self-love. I did a 12 days of self-care last year, and now I'm going to combine it a little bit deeper, and it's going to be magical. So I look forward to anybody that can actually take part. And again, there'll be 3 prizes at the end for people who it's a give back of being like, yay, you took care of you this holiday season. So yeah, more details to come, but that's a little bit of tidbits of what it's going to be. So thank you so much, Sarah, for being here. I'm so excited that you made it to the live event. And for anybody watching later, please comment below, share, and I really look forward to all of us hanging out for 12 days right before the holidays. So thank you again. And next week, we're going to actually go really into details of self-love, self-care. It's a big topic, and I haven't quite lasered in on exactly the details, but I just want to kind of get us ready for December and the 12 days of self-love. So we'll talk a little bit about that, unless anybody else has any other topics. And I hope you all have an amazing day, and know that you're doing a great job right now. Give yourself a great big pat on the back for taking care of you. And yeah, thanks again, Sarah, and have a beautiful day. Bye.